B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh V'Natzliach. Thank you everybody for joining us. We're recording, of course, for the Neshav of my father. Tonight is his first yartsite. Shlomo Chaim ben David, Yud Bet Elul. Parshat Ki Tesa is such a marvelous parsha, so many practical mitzvot. But today I wanted to talk about one of those dangerous phenomena which could really turn a person off from ever wanting to be a giver and a helpful person, because there is a phenomena that people bite the hand that fed them. And the Torah demands us not to be like this, not to be kafui tova, ungrateful people. Look at this part, I can't get over this, how deep this idea is that I want to share with you. It's a Rashi and it's a Gemara. At Revi'i, chapter 23, Pasuk 8, the Torah says we should not hate the Egyptian people. Lo tit'aev Masri, ki ger haiti be'azaro. Why? Because we Jews took refuge in Egypt. And therefore, the third generation that converts, after 3 generations that they convert into Judaism, they could be full-fledged Jews. Now, why should we hate them? Rashi says we really should hate them, because they were the original Nazis. They were so merciless and cruel. They threw our young boys into the Nile River. And Rashi says, do not hate them at all, mikol v'kol. Why? Because during the famine, in the time of Jacob and Joseph, Yaakov Abinu and Yosef, that nasty superpower of the world of the time gave us refuge, and they gave us the cream of their crop, Goshen. And if you look at the Gemara Brachot, the Torah Temimah brings it right here. It says that Paro had ulterior motives. He saw how blessed Egypt had become from the presence of Yosef. So the Egyptians let us into his country because he wanted 10 times more blessing. He said, if one person, Joseph, brought so much blessing, imagine another 11 of his brothers. So they really had ulterior motives for bringing us and giving us refuge in their land. But still, that is the awesome responsibility we have, to be grateful. That there can be a country that God was 10 plagues. We talk about it constantly in all our prayers and all our mitzvot. The whole Passover is to remember all the troubles, bitter herbs that we eat that the Egyptians did. But still, don't hate them. And I think this is the great challenge. We started off, honestly, why do people are so ungrateful and bite the hand that fed them? Because we know the epicenter, birthplace, root, father and of all, mother of all sin is self-worship, ga'ava, arrogance, vanity, narcissism, smugness. If you have integrity and decency, when somebody does good to you, you want to pay them back and you recognize it. But since people worship themselves, they never want to feel indebted. So if they don't have the integrity and decency, they want to totally wipe out any feeling of indebtedness. So then they attack the person that was so wholesome and fatherly and motherly and good to them. And that the Torah doesn't want us to do. It says, it's true. The Egyptians were nasty to you and I punished them. But what did you gain? See, that's the great challenge of having gratitude. It doesn't matter if the person did a bunch of terrible stuff. The good thing, you should always have it, like we say in Farsi, on top of your eyes. And never forget it, and always try to repay the favor and be thankful. This is how much the Torah puts an emphasis. And that's my father Zatzal was. He would always tell me, he was Solomon was his name, Shlomo, and he was a great judge of character. And he said a person that does not have the decency and integrity to have gratitude, shut him out of your life. And I was just learning the third mimer in Pachad Yitzchak. He also says, the Rav Hutner Zatzal, that great genius of Machshava, says that when he was at the feet of all the greatest Gedolim in Slobodka, he said all the Gedolim knew that he was upgefrekt, somebody that the great Torah scholars of Europe saw did not have the decency, integrity to be grateful. He was a nobody to them. And this is what the Khatam Sofer always says. When somebody would attack the greatest rabbi in Europe 200 years ago, Rav Moshe Sofer, he says, why are you attacking me? Why are you being so evil to me? I never did you so much good. That's what I think the deep challenge. Every relationship, you're going to get bitten. By your rabbi, by your partner, by your brother, by your sister. But just like God said, don't hate the Egyptian. Focus on the good that you gained from him, even though he did terrible beyond words things to us. We always have to focus on the good, and that will make us more godly. Because let's not forget, we are reading Selichot, that glorious prayer that we're getting ready for our spiritual Olympics in a couple of weeks. And we say, Notzer Chesed Lalafim. God, one of the godly attributes of God, of divine mercy, is that God recognizes and remembers our positive attributes, the mitzvot that we do for 2,000 generations. So it's not, lip service is not what we need to get to gain forgiveness from God when we say the 13 attributes of mercy. Like Rav Avadia always said from the Rif, when does God forgive us? When we say the Yag Midot, when we emulate the Almighty. That's why there's so many stories about Rav Shach and the Chafetz Chaim, how the Chafetz Chaim would run like Avram Avinu and serve somebody that would come to his house. Why? Because when he was a young man, the guy's grandfather had done him a favor 50, 60, 70 years ago. Our great angelic and godly prophets, Torah scholars, and Rebbes, they epitomized this sensational. They were so grateful. And just like God never forgets a good that we do, and it's like an insurance policy for us, it's a protection and shield, we also have to emulate God. And I think this is just, I can't find a more unfathomable example than this Egypt one. That the fact of the matter is, they gave us refuge, they gave us an environment, safe environment to live with. We shouldn't hate them. And we have to let them into our nation. The opposite is Ammon and Moab that were ungrateful. They are banned forever from marrying a Jewish woman because they don't have gratefulness. They were ungrateful. So may Hashem help us that when we are reading the Selichot and the Yag Midot, to realize lip service is not enough. Notzer Chesed Lalafim. We have to have that in every fiber of our spiritual DNA, of our neshama, to always remember the good, the doors that people open for us in life. And let's have the humility and decency to repay the favor, not forget, bite the hand, and there's no shortcuts to greatness. If we don't have humility, then it's going to cause so many different spiritual sicknesses. And one of those is, unfortunately, the worst of all, ungratefulness. Have a wonderful Shabbat and a wonderful New Year. Thank you.